whenever we need anything, she provides it for us. So all you see today will be a lot of things that she provided, and thank God for the internet and things like that. We're capable of at least exchanging things, and I'll get right into it. And if this works, why is this not working? Oh, wait a minute. I need to point that at something. Change the slide. Cassie, I can't, this thing isn't alive for some reason, but we can just go from here to...
It wouldn't be a brown bag without technical difficulties.
Okay, go backward. There we go. That one's forward. Oh, I was hitting the one that tilted. Oh, I think, yeah. Anyway, I'm gonna start off and then turn it over to these two, and then they'll turn it back to me, and we'll do all those sort of things. But like, oh, I turned it off. There it goes. Anyway, like Kim said, all 16 of them are on here. And Cassie Scheidecker put this together. She's a graphic artist for the Northwestern Energy. And we will go through all 16 of these, not from 45 through 60. We'll bounce around at times because we have sort of a sequence that we're going to go through, and part of it includes what, you know, like my granddaughter said, well, where the hell was Meaderville? You know, and sometimes we forget things like that. But anyway, I still don't know which one of these damn buttons. There we go. The reason I put this up here is this is what I took to Cassie. And you can't see anything. The pictures were horrible, but it has all 16 on it. And if it wasn't for what Cassie did, this is what you would be looking at. This is what a mathematician does, rows and columns and things like that. All the pictures are there, but I just want you to know how much work Cassie put into it. You can see this is very nice. Yeah, it's almost something you can use as something continuous. Why us? Just a quickie. I'm going to start with at the bottom of the screen there. That's the Meaderville Fire Department, 1960. And I want to start there because 38 people actually worked at the Meaderville Volunteer Fire Department. 3 of them are with us today, and there are only 4 alive. One of them couldn't make it for health reasons. And I'm going to have these guys stand up, and at times, hopefully they'll contribute, or if anybody has some knowledge that we don't know about, you're welcome to contribute. But I first want to introduce the three that are left, and they're sitting right here together. Ben Pestark Sr., would you stand up, Ben? Robert Muni. And Mike Cerise. We have picked their brain as much as we could at times, and I said, well, why don't you guys give some of this presentation, and Mike and Robert said, no way in hell. Ben said Ben said at times he will add and maybe answer some questions for us, and that's why, and throughout this whole presentation, we're going to talk a lot about the Meaderville Volunteer Fire Department. We wouldn't even be here today without those 38 guys and these 3. So that's how important their involvement was. You already know about Chris Fisk, Jim McCarthy, and Montana History Club. They are going to tell you how they recreated 1950 and 1948. And they'll be coming up here shortly. We have slides on that. You know, the 1951 is at the racetrack. We're having the lighting ceremony on that one tonight, and they'll spend most of their time talking. But they've been invaluable in terms of of what has happened with these Christmas displays and everything else. And I should at least justify my existence up here. Those flags justify my existence. I like to use them. This is my DNA that everybody's doing these days. And you can see, I'm just going to read to you quickly. I'm trying to justify why they asked me to do this. Italy, 52%. I'm 52% Italian. Blew my mind. I thought I was full-blooded. The Croatian flag is the next one down. That's 25%. I grew up in McQueen, so maybe that justifies why that one's there. But my mother and father lived their first 5 years in Meaderville. Both of my sisters were born in Meaderville. They migrated. There was no wall between McQueen and Meaderville. So they migrated to McQueen, and I was born in McQueen and raised there. So anyway, the next flag down is, this was a shock, but I've already received an application. 11% Irish. Yeah. So, and lastly, the last flag down there is from Africa. I kid you not, I'm 1% African. Oh, what did I do there? But anyway, there's all kinds of African flags, and a good friend of mine is a Jesuit priest in Zambia. His name is Jim McCarthy, and some of you know him. So I had put that up there to honor him. Anyway, enough about why we're here. A lot of our information came out of this book. Some of you have it. It's a collector's item. You know, it's a lot of this is the 50th anniversary of the Meaderville Volunteer Fire Department, and basically all of these are in there along with all their floats, and we're going to talk a little bit about their floats today. This is 1947, what's the middle one there? 52, and then 1960, which is the one I had. And I think all three of these guys are in every one of those pictures. And you will probably recognize relatives. I have lists of the 38, and we're going to honor them later on. I'm going to start by talking about a few of this is 1955, and 1955, it had these swinging doors that weighed 350 pounds each and opened and closed every 90 seconds. And I don't know, that was a significant accomplishment. You'll see me, I'll be paging through things here that I've sort of come across, Kim sent me. And basically, the newspapers covered the displays very well. So I got a lot of my information from articles in the newspaper. And what I have is a whole book of displays and these articles. And at times I'm just going to read to you because I'll just bore you for a minute, but I was in Texas watching football, and it wasn't a very good game. Kim was sending me this, and I started reading these, and I said, you know, people need to realize how much went into these displays. And these articles go into detail, and I'll read to you a little bit about I hope this goes backwards. No, it didn't. It basically says 2 electrical motors, one a 450 volt, 500 pound mechanism, 7 electrical circuits, swung the doors back and forth, that each weighed 350 pounds, and they opened and closed every 90 seconds. So if you went and watched this 55 display, that's what you would see when you were sitting in front of them. And you know, that's a significant accomplishment for anybody. There were lights and everything else. In this picture, the thing that came out to me as I was reading these is, especially males, they'll look at this and say, huh, that looks nice. But there's so much more that was in these, that came out in the articles. Last thing they said, work on this display started on April 11th. So you can see how many hours these gentlemen and their friends put together. Again, this particular one is 1945, and I'm going to go through 45 and 46 and then turn it over to Chris and Jim. And in 45, this is the very first one they did. If I can just bore you with a few more details, you can see that there's lots there. A boy's dream of peace and Christmas is presented from the viewpoint of a young boy sitting with his dog. Jim, can you point that out? It's right in the front there. He's sitting with his dog on a hilltop overlooking a village. So actually there's a little boy right in front. Is that correct, you guys, you three? Yes. And the artistic work in this is unbelievable. There's a Bible on the left. It's 5 feet high and 3 feet in size. On the right, there's houses glittering in gold, and there's a cross 6 feet high on the right side. And that's just a few things. A lot of the ones that were created had the reindeers and Santa Claus going across, and Jim and Chris are going to talk more about that. So anyway, that was 45. I think they went through, how many sets of reindeers did you guys go through? Do you remember? Don't know, huh? That's okay. Anyway, this is 46. Is it 46 up there? Did I go to it yet? I'm going backwards. 46 was another one that had the reindeers in it. Just a few things to point out in that one. The sleigh floats over the town behind 4 bouncing reindeers, kept in motion by an invisible conveyor belt. And, you know, you can say, well, where did they get this conveyor belt? Where did they get any of their stuff? And I think Ben and Mike and Robert will tell you that the Untitled company was very generous. I got the impression that that's like going into Walmart and stealing something and saying Walmart is sure generous. But anyway, they were very generous. I think they just really liked to be involved. You know, even like this, they put out fantastic documents. So conveyor belts, motors, electrical stuff, lights, 2x4s, plywood, you name it, they got from the Anna Company. And this one, it says, has stained glass windows in it. For those of you familiar with Meaderville, and I don't know, was Dan Hillen involved in a lot of the stained glass? Because I don't know, who would have done the stained glass? Father Hillen, yeah. He was a classical guy, so that's what I call him Dan. The heads of the Madonna and yeah. Oh yeah, Toljan sign will come up, and I think we found that out. Toljan did a lot of the artwork. If you look at this stuff that's scattered around, this stuff, the artwork is unbelievable. I mean,
he did all the painting.
All the paintings were done there. Was somebody from Meaderville involved in Toljan?
No, I think it was Gary Gorge, knew him pretty well from doing something else besides Meaderville.
Okay.
And he came down and volunteered all of his time.
Yeah, Gary Gorge was a very powerful politician, and I think he had ways to get people to do work, right? Anyway, 46, I don't want to take up too much time because we only have an hour, but thing that I wanted to point out with this slide is that a lot of things were carried over from year to year. And this slide shows you that in 45 and 46 they had the same reindeers and everything else, and they were stored I think Robert, you told me where they were stored.
We had a hall. I don't know if everybody's familiar with Woody's.
Yeah.
Going on in Meaderville. You had to go over the Copper Creek, the bridge, and just to the right there was a big white barn.
You said it was a dance hall barn or something when I talked.
Nice that at the cold yard there, too, you know.
And I have, I'm gonna go through Meaderville, in a little bit after these guys. And we do have a picture, I found a picture of, that Meaderville McQueen, and I think the barn will be able to.
I think in the early days, they used to have a dance, you know, and band and everything.
Sure. Well, I mean, the 52% Italian will come out with me. Meaderville was the nexus of the world, and not just a minor statement, sort of. This is 47, is it? Oh, 57 is the reason I bring 57 up, and then I'm going to turn it over to Jim and Chris. Bear with me while I go through this. We were on party line.
Out front, these are your reindeer that are out front.
Oh,
See the
yeah.
barns?
You know the reindeers that are out here?
That's two beds that are sleeping. Okay?
Those are the two beds. And what it says about this, I'll just quickly tell you what the newspaper article said. It said, this is fascinating, I think, 'cause, when the game was getting worse in Texas, so anyway. But anyway, the girl has her arms entwined around her doll, while on the foot of the boy's bed are his cowboy hat, a toy pistol, and a holster. That's the kind of detail they had in these displays. But this is even more fascinating. He says, the reindeer skims, it appears, over a snow-covered rural church, over deep snow, a bridge crossing on Icebound Creek, and then into Butte. Big Butte, the Immaculate Conception, the Kelly, the Lexington, and other mines are all displayed as he goes over. So they really knew, they made it Butte for sure, the Meaderville displays. This is a picture of them doing the work in 1957. And we'll talk more about it, but on an average, I think it was a couple thousand hours of man hours that were put into every one of these, is what I was able to come up with. I'm not sure if Ben or Robert or Mike are in that. They're probably in there somewhere, probably not very safe up on top up there somewhere, right? Anyway, now I'm going to turn it over to these two guys, and I'll come back and talk some more, okay?
I'll get over here so I can see one of them. How are we doing today, guys? Thank you for coming. Let's hear it for the kids who rebuilt these things. This was the night before Christmas. The way it all got started for the Montana History Club. Hold it. Which one do we hit here? I don't want to pull a Michelotti. Okay.
It's this one I'll show you. I hit every one of them all the time. That's that one.
Oh. Yeah, okay. We're good? We're good. It started with actually a report that was written in my Montana history class. A little gal did her end of the year project on Meaderville and said that her grandfather was a Meaderville volunteer fireman. And in part of her paper, she said, well, they built these gigantic Christmas displays that were, in some cases, 40 plus feet high and 100 feet wide, and I wrote BS. Circled it. And 2 days later, Grandpa showed up and brought with him, the Meaderville memory book from 1960. And the kids started kicking it around, and they decided they wanted to try to build one of these. And thanks to some help from Pam Cody Haxby and the outfit she was working for at that time, they provided the money to build the first one. And this was the first that we built. It was at the Anselmo yard. It was 48 feet high at the spire of a 4-foot cross, the inside lit up by neon. That thing took forever. I'm not gonna lie to you. We started in September and we were happy as all get out to get her lit up by the 17th of December. And some of you may remember it. It was absolutely beautiful and a great way for us to cut our teeth on Butte history. A few things you might notice. Oh, the hell did I do with that thing, Jim? I know it's got a laser pointer here somewhere. Yeah, let me see your pointer. Could I mean, that's a loaded gun. That's a loaded gun in my hand. When we put this together, we had the advantage of modern technology. You guys were walking on tight wires and crawling up ladders, and if it was like the old volunteer fire departments and the good old boy club, maybe after 5 or 6 beers. I don't know. So, that being said,
Meaderville Fire Department,
what's that, sir?
not the Meaderville Fire
No,
Department.
not those guys. We had the benefit of cranes and cherry pickers, and boy, the thing I remember about this is when we put this idea forward and started in on it, as it would wind up in the newspapers, it was kind of a will they get it done sort of thing. And to be quite frank with you, I was petrified myself. And then about 5 construction companies showed up, and then we got it taken care of. Trip Construction and a couple that have been there from beginning to end, Continental Fence and Hunter Brothers, Crane, Hunter Brothers Construction. Jerry Sullivan wired all of this. We put the holes in, taught the kids how to use pinch sockets. We used a lot of their original lights where we could, just in honor of them. This is Father Time and Baby New Year, which is right there. Okay, and then the chorus singers, I'm not sure what happened to the chorus singers. They're in someone's yard, I guess, I don't know. And then we had a little controversy over this right here because I'm a school teacher, you cannot mix church and state. And because of that, when we approached it, we never referred to it as the nativity, we called it a barn scene. See, I'm from Dillon, and there's a lot of animals in there, so we called it a barn scene. So we were in good shape. The bell tower, that was the last thing we got put in were the bells, and it was actually one solid bell that the kids had put together. And we didn't have a cherry picker anymore, so Jerry Sullivan, a volunteer fireman from Racetrack, said, here, give me that big ladder. And man, that was like 40 feet in the air. And I was absolutely petrified. He crawled right up, put it in, and came down. And he said, see, nothing to it. This was quite the endeavor.
They're both stained glass.
They are. And the way that we did the stained glass, again, we had advantage of technology and materials. There was a clear paper that you could put over windows to make it look like stained glass. So Danny Mack from Max Glass mounted plexiglass on the outside, and then we simply adhered that to the back, making a shadow box from behind and lighting it up from behind. Not counting these, but there were lights inside of these as well. And then the speakers, because they played music all the time, we had mounted right here. And there's your kids again. And Santa, in this case, would fly up, and you could see the reindeer and Santa go through this little window.
Oh, that's
And that was one of the biggest struggles that we had. And little did I know, years prior, I met a guy by the name of Tuffy Civatari. And I was mowing lawns, and man, here's this 80-year-old guy just humming across lawns, loving it. And finally got to visit with him. He always said, well, you'd never heard of the Meaderville displays? I said, no, and at the time it didn't register. But he said, yeah, I did a lot of the mechanics for it. And then he passed, and we went to go to the air here. And that's when I met a guy by the name of Angelo Petroni. we were sitting there, we had this whole thing up, and we're all kind of looking at this somewhat baffled, going, how did Santa fly through the air? And furthermore, 1948, and this old guy comes up, behind us, and he says, how you doing? You boys need a hand? Need any information? I said, not unless you know how Santa's ass flew through there. And he goes, oh yeah, that was easy. It was a conveyor belt we took from the Anaconda Company. I said, well, we can't do that. So, and explained to a friend of ours, Charlie Worley, who's been on it every year, wooden spindles, and that's how Santa would fly by, and he'd just come by and go right back through. So that was 1948. Any questions? Okay. Oh, yes, sir.
What year did you do yours and then did someone?
2003.
Oh.
That was the first one that we built. And we built the second one since. Okay? Go ahead, sir.
Chris?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Yeah, this Meaderville one that's over here now, was all these earlier ones in the same location?
Yes, all of the Meaderville Christmas displays were put at the fire hall. I am assuming right next to it, just next to near the Leonard. You can always see the Leonard behind all of these, the pictures that they took, including this one, just to the left at the very top. I had a privilege of getting Angelo on tape for about 2 hours as he explained this and many other things about Meaderville. And they were young guys, it was, I don't want to say a good old boys club, but it was a real identity in the neighborhood, and they were called on to do more than displays. Dinners, when sons would go off to war, when they'd come back from war, God forbid if they were lost at war, the Meaderville crew would pick it up and make sure that their dinners were made properly and honored, as well as when they passed. And the other great thing is you'll see was 4th of July floats. Macy's Thanksgiving has nothing on these guys. How they did this without modern technology, I can't understand. I was told by Angelo that the guy wanted the cross on top in honor of his mother, and so he went up there and put it on, and then froze. They had to do a high wire kind of fire rescue to get the guy off there. I don't know if any of you guys remember. Angelo sure did. So, okay, next one. Okay, and as you can see, Angelo used the word cannibalize, and they would use pieces from year to year. And again, in this one, just like the first ones, you'll see Father Time and Baby New Year. Oops. That's Father Time and Baby New Year. And here's the barn scene again, and once again, your Santa and reindeer flying through. And they would piece together another one. And again, I'd stress the art that was used with these original. Angelo said when it came time for doing like the reindeer and the snowmen and the elves, they'd cut them all out, and the guy would come by with the one color of paint, and he'd have people hold them, and he'd just go down and paint them. And he'd use one color, and then he'd go get another color. They'd stand there, and he'd paint more and more. And if you look at the intricacies, I mean, the details of these are just absolutely unreal. Look at the eyes. They're just amazing, the skill in these sign painters. So, maybe. Oop, now I'm going to go the other way. Trying to. Trying to go backwards here. Now I ain't going nowhere. Now I'm going forward. I'm going way forward. There we go. We're going back now. So there's the 1950 Christmas display. This was the second one that the kids chose. So 2 years later, we set about building a second one. We tried to get as close as we could. God darn it. No, I'm really going for it right now. We did our best to stay as accurate as we could. the way that we did it, and it was the only practical way that we could do it, we took the pictures and put them on a scaled size, 4 by 8 feet. And then we'd buy plywood. And then I'd take an overhead projector after we had made a slide out of the blueprints. And I could project that on the wall. We'd line up 4 corners and we'd trace it out. It would go out, kids would cut it out. And then it would go to the next stage of painting, and then it would go to the mounting of the frames. And that's how we get the initial shape of them. The gingerbread houses for us are 18 feet high. Candy canes are about 28 feet, or 18 feet high. The gingerbread and the candy canes are 28 feet high. Our wreath is 32 feet at its crest. The bow was a real challenge. They used kind of a cellophane foil paper to make these, and they would bend them around and anchor them. We could not find that material to save our lives, and so we thought, well, if it's gonna be portable, let's make it out of tin. We could find, God love them, no one in Butte that would touch that. They're just saying that's impossible. And I found a guy in Harlowton, Montana, who couldn't say no, a tin bender over there, and his name was Jimbo Fisk. That would be my cousin. So he got her built, and we brought her in, and it fit just perfect. So anyhow, this is the 1951 that we'll be throwing the switch on again this evening. Okay.
What time?
Whoops. I get excited. What time? Tonight at 6 o'clock. We'll be flipping the switch at the Racetrack Fire Hall. We'll have cookies and hot chocolate, and who knows, maybe even Santa will show up. Tonight, these gentlemen, these last survivors of the Meaderville Volunteer Fire Department will be there. They will flip the switch. And hopefully I've got it wired correctly, Mr. Pesdarker. We're sending you out. It'll work. It'll work. And I'm going backwards again.
Chris,
Sure.
you ought to mention that right directly behind the signs was the Leonard Mine.
Yes, sir.
Well,
Yeah, you can see them in nearly all the pictures, the Leonard Mine, and that cross on top of the Leonard. Let's see if we can. Oh, okay. We'll point that out then. Here's some of the kids that we did, that we had for putting it up over the years. Again, we started in 2005. Little gal, just kind of off the cuff. Oops, son of a gun. Oh, I hate this thing. Okay, on the left-hand side, that's Miss Lauren Laurent. That's when she was in the History Club in 2011. She student taught for me this year in Montana history. And she was all about Butte. So she scored a really good job up in Havre, Class A school. All of these kids are still around. Sadly enough, throughout the years, we've lost 3 history clubbers due to car accidents or other things. So it's nice that we have these pictures, thanks to Jimmy and the crew.
Where's your barnyard?
And that's the barnyard scene, yeah. There's the barnyard scene. After a while, guys, you know, putting that all up and taking it down took a day, so we just got a flatbed trailer and built it on the flatbed trailer. And then we just pull it in and out and go stick it back in storage. So that's again the advantage that we had over the past. And this is how we get it down. We keep in storage up the Missoula Mine Yard. And there's a certain particular way that these all pack into trailers. This process of packing them up to move them down alone takes about 2.5 hours before we start putting it into the air. And putting it into the air can take anywhere from 4 days to 9, depending on what snags we hit and what equipment and folks are available. And that's what they look like when they're up in the Missoula. Okay, this is the bottom of the wreath. This is going to give you guys an idea of what it takes to put these things up. This is from the Anselmo. They were just starting on the last base top. That's Mr. Maloney's class who gave us a hand that year, as well as Bentley Construction, Tripp Construction. It was really cool. Okay, that's part of the bow. That's Racetrack Fire Hall. That's Dawson Klobuchar just looking at the camera. He's really good at that part. And it's an incredible process to get this up. To think that you guys did this from hand every year. And now we've got it to a science, as Jim will show you. Science isn't always perfect, but there's the kids, and they're getting ready to mount that to the crane, and they'll pick it into the air. Ed Skubitz and Leonard Hunter have always picked them for us. They're wonderful help. It couldn't be done without these, period. Couldn't be done. Okay? And that's how they swing into position, and then we get cherry pickers or bucket trucks in behind with impact wrenches, and they mount directly to the telephone poles. There you go. And that's what it looks like after you do 8 picks and get them anchored. Santa starts flying through. Okay, there he is. And that Santa is right here. Now, the one thing I really wish Meaderville would have done, and we had the hindsight to do it, beginning in 2003. The back of every one of these pieces and every panel of that, the kids and the people who worked on it signed their names and put their dates on it, beginning in 2000, for this one, 2005. And I wish the Meaderville boys would have done it. You want to talk an artifact? Most of them couldn't write. I'm not going to touch that one. They still did great work, I'll tell you. And when we talk days, usually it takes, on average, 4 or 5 full days to get her in the air. And we go in and eat lunch. Ms. Dolson and Ms. Boydnott would fix different kinds of meals, you know, spaghetti, chili, hot dogs, pizza on occasion. This is one of my favorite pictures right here. These are some of the kids. Can I use your laser pointer, Jimmy? These are some of the kids that headed it up. Now understand, the first year we went in to do this was 2005. Okay, so this is 6 years later. This is Yoth, and this is Miss Olson right here. By the way, the youngest certified brewmaster in the state. At the age of 17, she couldn't drink it, but she could make it. God bless America. And I asked her, I said, "You never drank it, did you?" And she goes, "Oh no, Mr. Fisk." This is Grandpa Charlie Worley. Now these guys were the absolute mainstays of this throughout the years, and there were a number of them, but this is a really good picture. This is Eddie Skubitz. Okay, that's Darcy. I just went blank, Jimmy. Darby Decker, and she's finishing her degree in engineering this year. That's me, about 50 pounds heavier. Believe it or not, mountain man in the back. You see this guy right here? I better get over here to this side. You got him over here? Okay, this is mountain man, Dan Haggerty. This gentleman sits right here in the back row. This is Mr. Stodden. Go ahead and raise your hand, Wayne, if you could. He's been, give him a big hand, guys. Like I said, wouldn't be done without him. And then this is Sweet Jimmy, and that's Bandit. In the red jacket, God rest his soul, over the years we've lost 2 of our main helpers. The first was a guy by the name of Felix Madrazo. He always showed up to help and enjoyed the kids. And the other was Steve Boydnott. And Stevie just passed away here a few years ago, the following year after this one. So, grab this again. No, wrong thing. What the hell did I do with it? And then back to Meaderville. The one thing I could say, you know, it's over the last 15 years, and you think about it, these have been going up as long as the Meaderville's displays have lasted. These kids that sit in the back, and a lot of them work on them. You know, Hunter Brother Construction, Continental Fence, there's Jimmy, and Grandpa Charlie's been with it for 15 years. Mr. Stodden's been with us for at least 10. Just piles and piles of great, great people. And if it wasn't for them, it wouldn't go up. On that, I will share with you a caveat that's going through my head. And if I wasn't, I wouldn't be doing my volunteers that have given so much time. We're getting older. Even I'm getting older. This thing's getting hard. And I'm worried about somebody getting hurt. We're hoping there's an organization out there, younger, not necessarily stronger, because we're still pretty buff, that can step up and help take this thing over. 15 years is a decade and a half, and it's a hell of a long run. But I'm worried someone's going to get hurt. And so if you know of an organization that's as in tune to history as you guys, I'd love them to visit with us, because I'm really not quite sure where this is all going to go. And I mean that in a loving way, because what this display, what you guys started, has given me and my students so much that we can't replace that. So anyway, with that, back to your MC.
Let's see, am I on there? Okay. Well, thank you, Chris and Jim. When we rehearsed this, and we did, we didn't go backwards and forwards like you're seeing us doing this. This room is new to us. But anyway, Fisk warned me, he says, you know, somebody's going to take too much time. And the only reason I bring that up, if any of you have to leave at 1 o'clock, that's fine. You know, but we'll probably go another half hour, I would think, you know, and we could go a couple hours, and you can see how much both Jim and Chris have been involved in this in the history club. So I'm going to turn and head into a little bit more about Meaderville and a few more of the displays, and I'll slow me down if I go. I had to bring these up, you know. We have 3 different floats. This is 19, can you tell me that? I don't remember what it was. 1951, and you know, as soon as these gentlemen finished with the Christmas display and enjoyed the holidays, they would start on the Meaderville float. Your dad
drove that.
He'd been here, drove that one in the 51 parade. And these aren't the kind of, you know, if you've ever sponsored a float in the parades nowadays, they come in and they put them together in a couple hours and charge you $5,000 and ride around in the parade. These things were just as much of a creation as any of the Christmas displays. And I just put a few of these in. Excuse me, went too fast. Here's another one. I mean, and I don't need, how many years did they do the floats? I haven't got into that.
Many years.
Yeah.
Right up until the company bought people out of Meaderville and McLean and moved them.
So about the same time as the Christmas displays, huh?
I think it was in the 70s.
Okay.
The lady on top up there is my Aunt Mary Cumba, Dad's sister. Dad's driving it, and that's his sister up on top. You ever went to see Dr. Rogers and you saw the lady with the big hair and the bun bun? That's him.
There you go. This, I just took a picture of this. If you haven't seen it out in the foyer there, you know, this is the recreated Santa Claus, recreated kids in their beds. This is the last year they did it, 1960, and for the sake of time, I'm going to sort of go through these, but that globe that sits, oh, I missed it. That globe here is like 8 feet in diameter or something. You know, the pictures don't do justice, but this is the only colored picture we could find of any of the displays. The rest of them were always black and white. That's 60, do you see that? This is an unbelievable display. It's 1950, 59. went through a whole bunch of countries. Each one of the displays was 10 by 12, and it rotated. I think the whole thing was, I forget how high, 40 feet high, 52 feet high, the tree on top, and somebody, I don't know how they got the star on top up there, but that was an amazing feat. I had more information on him, and take a look at this Santa Claus, because that was one that was reused from 50, I can't remember the year. You look at most of these, and this was another one that was leaning towards the, certainly the nativity scene was always there. Each one of these was a separate scene that they talk about in the newspaper. 47, I put that one up here because, again, this is the portable nativity scene that they couldn't really call a nativity scene. And all of these, again, are on your handout that you saw. Trying to scoot, there's the nativity scene. I want to spend a little bit of time on Meaderville for those of you that aren't familiar with Meaderville, but I have some pictures that you'll appreciate. This is some information on Meaderville: 335 houses, 2 schools, 3 churches, 4 grocery stores, and as you can see, it was quite a neighborhood. We figured there was 1,000 to 1,500 people that lived in Meaderville. Somebody said, well, how many bars were there? You don't have anything up there? There were 19 bars. Well, if you brought one bar up, then you'd have to talk about another bar, and then a third bar. And for the sake of my family and everything else, I had to not put any bars up there. This is some pictures I will share with you. So here's McQueen. Here's Meaderville. The Leonard Mine is that right? The Leonard's right there. I have some pictures that are flyovers that will show you where all these displays were actually done. This is Meaderville from taking a picture looking west. You can see there's lots of houses. There was no pre-planning for sure. You can see. This is the Leonard Mine going down Main Street if you're going south, and that was an overhang that kept the grease from hitting cars and everything else. Now people says, well, where was Meaderville? This is a sort of a picture put together with the pit, and Meaderville had North Main and South Meaderville. And the pit, the South Meaderville was in the pit, right there. And the displays would be right on the edge of the pit. So right down in here. McQueen was over here, and Main Meaderville was right in here. This is a flyover that shows the uptown area, and what I'm leading up to here is trying to show you how you drove to see these displays, because thousands of cars would come and go to that's like most of you probably went to see these displays. I was fortunate and I could walk right down, and I'll show you how I walked down from McQueen to Meaderville and how we watched things progress. But basically what you have uptown Butte here, and right here's Park Street, if I don't shake too much, right there. Here's Meaderville, right there, and McQueen. So basically you'd go down Park Street, go down the hill, and then you'd go into Meaderville if you were coming from the city, I have some more pictures that show you. This is probably They started the pit in 55, so this is probably in the late 50s. And you can see Meaderville still there. Again, here's this road that I talked about. This is a picture taken from when Park Street wrapped around and you're headed up towards Helena. So if you were coming from uptown Butte, you would be on this road. And you would go down the hill and go north to Meaderville. Stop me if you have any questions or if you can add anything to it. This is going into Meaderville from the south, and the displays were right there. Now this picture is going. This is Guidi's grocery store. And the reason I throw that one up there is because this is the one that Robert brought my attention to. If you follow, so you have McQueen up here, this is Main Meaderville right here. Now, the schools, here's Franklin School. Well, the street that went down went from up here, wrapped around, and came out on Main Street, and displays were right over here. That's about 3 or 4 blocks, all it was. Now, if I'm not mistaken, Robert, that barn, here's Guidi's store right here. That place where you stored everything is right in here somewhere. And I think it would be this building right there. Is that close enough? So it was close, and we were able to walk down and watch all this go up. And when they first asked me to be involved in this, I said, well, I really never pounded a nail or did anything on the displays. But Chris Fisk said, well, you lived it. You were able to. And I don't remember a lot about looking at these because I was only, I was born in 44, so, I didn't walk in 45. But in the 50s, I walked down, and I remember we'd go down all the time and just watch. And one of the problems they had, and Ben and Robert and Mike, the kids were always hanging out and getting in the way, I have to read you this one thing that was written in the paper about, for 6 weeks, what basically happened is the guys disappeared. But the mothers didn't want to be orphaned or divorced or anything and have the kids at home, so they'd send the kids down to see what the fathers were doing. So you had all these kids and the fathers down at the Meaderville every day. And so anyway.
Can you see the Rocky Mountain in that picture?
The Rocky Mountain would be, the first Rocky Mountain is right there, I think.
Jim,
Yeah?
the first big building, that was the first Rocky Mountain, and it burned.
Yeah, this one right here, Ben?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the first one. Then it moved across the street.
The second one, where the mine is right there,
Yeah,
that building right next to it was called the Golden Fan.
a golden fountain.
It was Rocky Mountain.
Eventually became the Rocky Mountain, didn't it? Yeah. Is this the arrow here? This complex?
It's right there where that white building on the other side of the white building there.
Yeah. This was where all the action, everybody came to Butte. This is the Las Vegas Strip of Meaderville. That's about the best way you can describe it. Everything was on Main Street. Okay. This was another way you could go look at the displays. And this is coming from, here you have McQueen, and there was a back road that went into Meaderville. And this is where the Yankee Doodle Pond and the Leech Ponds are now, basically. Here's that road leading into Main Street of Meaderville.
The main highway.
Yeah, it was the main highway. we eventually went out to heaven, right? Yeah. You can almost date this, I forget what it says, it's on that billboard, some movie star some gal that we never, Clark Gable and Myrna Loy. Yeah, okay. This is all the other things that went on during Christmas. And basically, the standard covered it, but you can see that the display up there that are part of the Meaderville displays, and then these are other yard scenes. I mean, a lot of people did a lot of things in their yards too, in addition to the Christmas displays.
Right here, the original, this is one of the choir girls. See her? She's right there.
This one?
Yeah. And little MVFD is down in this one. That's the other one. That's the elf holding the.
That's this one. This you said goes back to 1945.
Yeah.
This one
That
right
followed
here.
all of them. That was given to us by Christina's McGrath. And they had bought the whole set for $5 at a Butte Central auction.
Okay. This sequence covers about 4 in the 50s, and Chris might be able to add to this, but this snowman, this was a monumental accomplishment, what they did with this wreath, I think you were telling us.
Well, when you look at this, of course, they reused the wreath, just didn't have the boughs that they had stapled to it. But if you look at that, that's all tin foil. And they had taken the tin foil and put it all the way. I can't imagine how long that took. It baffles me.
Wrapping the turkey.
Yeah, great big one. And again, so when we look at how they would salvage from the other years, boy, they still just put tons and tons and tons of work into it with a new theme, utilizing what pieces they have. The Santa Claus, I know it's of styrofoam, okay, but how they get it to that shape is beyond me.
What I was curious about, Ben and Robert and Mike, is you must have worked in groups. You had certain tasks, I would think, huh?
They had one craftsman, worked on the hill, carpentry,
Yeah.
electrician.
But when you went there that night, somebody had to say, well, you go wrap that up in tinfoil over there, or something, right?
They had it pretty well laid out, Angelo and Gary Gorsh.
Yeah. So somebody was really organizing all the tasks. And the one thing we haven't been able to find anywhere are any plans for any of this. They either got destroyed, right? Or is that a touchy subject?
No, we have some.
You have some somewhere.
Yeah, the ones we rebuilt.
For these kind, the ones that we built, I think they were on toilet paper and all that, somebody just sketched it out.
Jim,
Yeah,
how would they decide every year what they're gonna do?
yeah, that's a good question. How did they decide what they were gonna do?
I think it was up like, Angelo and Gary came up with a lot of that different scenes and talked to people and that's how they come up with it.
So, Angelo Petroni was a fire chief, and Gary Gorsh was a commissioner, and he's, if you read any of this stuff, he's constantly involved. So they did have a planning smaller group that decided. But there were some that they were gonna do, and they decided, no, that's too much, or
So
something.
Benny said they had a committee and that went through it.
Yeah, they had a committee that designed it. Yeah, because that's what that amazed me, just looking at all this stuff. I mean, If you did it now,
The back room where we built a lot of this stuff was, it looked more like a carpenter shop than it did a meeting room.
oh, okay. And it wasn't that big of a building though, was it?
No.
Were there any women involved?
Were there any women involved?
Any what?
Women.
No.
Next question. That's, if I can add to that, and I'm sure, in my lodge, you have to be male and at least half Italian. We've never had any problems with Title IX. I think the women were home, you know, cooking and taking care of everything. I probably, what's that?
They brought food up all the time.
Did you hear that? They brought food up and all the time, and there was plenty to drink. One of the things that fascinated me, they had music playing when they were working. And I think I mentioned to my grandfather, they didn't have Wi-Fi or Bluetooth or anything like this. They had one, as I understand, they had one guy, they had an old record player, and they had one guy sitting next to that, and all night long he changed records while they were working on it. Fortunately, that's where the keg of beer was, right next to the record player. But that's a good question. You know, the women were behind the scenes for sure.
Yeah. Too late to cover now.
Yeah, I'm done. My wife, no food tonight. Anyway, did you hear that? Robert just said, you know, there were some fantastic restaurants in Meaderville. They would bring food down all the time, and the bars brought down as much liquor and beer as you ever wanted. Yeah. Yeah.
When we were building these, during the week at night, we build the stuff inside of the fire department, then on weekends is when we did the outside work.
Okay. Did you hear Ben? You know, there was a lot of, and that's the painting too, and all that had to be inside, didn't it? Yeah. And all the small, like these things here, you were building them and all that, and then you'd go put them up. It was really organized. I'm amazed when you start looking into this. And Gary Gorish lived a couple houses away from us in McQueen, and I know what kind of person he was. And he was, boom, boom, boom. He was, does you guys know Gary? There's a lot of you. He was very organized, and Angelo was Angelo. And he was very organized too. Anyway, I'm going to skip ahead a little bit. Not that this here one was, each one, this is another one that had panels, and each of the panels had, like the one on top up there, I think is, one of them up there is a family scene, another one is a outside scene, and I can't find a picture of how these were all put together, but I assume they rotated somehow on a carousel. Yeah. This one is, again, 52 was, this is so different than everything else. They must have did something totally different with this one. Most of them had the Madonna, the baby Jesus, and all that. That was a theme that carried over all the time. Well, this one, Chris, you were talking about the spires on this one too, weren't you?
Yeah, just impressed. I can't imagine the electrical.
Yeah. What do you mean, getting
Closed
to?
circuits all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, all. And, well, no, not so much anymore, but we're getting into this point to there. But I can't imagine the work of
The electricity that went into it. I'm just going to go through a quick few things on Meaderville, and then, fortunately, I had this slide put up there. This is the Meaderville baseball, the girls' baseball team. I don't know who they played. This is the 1928 Meaderville baseball team, and just to show you that Meaderville was a functioning community for sure. You know, this not to add any humor, but this is my father. This is my uncle Jim. I use this on my Facebook. People write back to me and say, "Which one are you?" So I have to respond, "I'm the black one in the middle row." Then I say, "It's 1928. Anyway, these are just to give me a rope. This is a Christmas celebration in McQueen in 1938. Look at the people and the tree and everything else. Moose would remember this. Probably has pictures of this one. A little bit about McQueen. Now, I did find this picture of Angelo and Gary Gorse. And you certainly have to give a lot of credit to them because they seem to be the main people in this involvement. And they did get a lot of trophies for what they did, you know. But, I mean, they did this, it was a labor of love. It wasn't for trophies or anything. They loved having the kids come out in the cars and everything else. This is in honor of the people again. Robert, Mike, and Ben are in there, and you probably can see people don't change much.
Dad's the third from, that's Ben.
There's Robert and Ben right there, right?
On the left.
And
Front row.
Ben's right here. I mean, and this is Robert and Mike right here. This one here is the 38 people that were in the fire department over the 16 years. You might recognize a relative or a friend in there. Goes to show some. Chris mentioned Tuffy. I think he may have been the oldest one in there, isn't he? 29 years or something. Yeah. I put this one in here just to give thanks to Northwestern Energy again. This was a Christmas thing that the Montana Power Company put together. And then this is the last slide, and sort of one of my favorite, the people with no past have no future. So, thank you. Talk about the lighting thing again. Just one last thing on the lighting, Christine. Sure.
Tonight there'll be the lighting ceremony. It's a racetrack fire hall. We're going to do her at 6 o'clock. We'll have cookies and hot chocolate, coffee, things of that nature. So please come out and join us tonight, and the students from Butte High. If we could, let's give the kids a great big hand for the last 15 years. And our volunteers, without them, there's no way none of this could have been done. Mr. Pesdork, I understand you have some materials. You want me to bring it to you? When we're done, you're welcome to go play with figurines, get your pictures with them, whatever. Play with them. It's not right.
I'll see you first.